And what is up, everybody? Um, Feeling a bit patriotic, as well as it being July. And I would call it 4th of July weekend, except the 4th of July was Thursday. So right here we got uh, three different GI Joe dolls, but you know, granted, despite wearing three different kinds of uniforms, all three of them are Marines. You got the Desert Storm, Korean War, and modern day style Marine Corps uniform. Granted, that was a Desert Paratrooper Marine. And I was at Joe Fest a couple weeks ago. Joe Fest, great time. Meeting Larry Hama for the fourth time. Me and him are practically friends now. Meeting Ron Rudat for the first time, and being able to give back to the two men who probably helped me more become who I am today than even my own family. But you see, wearing this now, the shirt is the silhouette of clearly a service member doing a salute, and he's wearing a Kevlar helmet. Could be a soldier, but just as easily could be a Marine. So that's the reason I'm wearing this shirt. Just because. However, at Joe Fest, somebody was cosplaying as a G.I. Joe team member from a Real American Hero, and saying, "Oh yeah, Black Joes matter. Black Joes matter. There were only 5 of us," and that couldn't be any further from the truth. First off, he's off by at least one extra digit, and considering the fact that think about it like this: the first members of GI Joe, the original 13, there was one black character, Stalker. He was the token black character, right? Then eventually get introduced to Roadblock and Alpine and Doc. Then over the course of all the years that have been around, there have been 14 black characters within G.I. Joe. 14. So that's, not way off, but clearly off. And a lot more than 5. That's one. 2. There have been more black Marines. I mean, there have been more black G.I. Joe characters than there have been Marine Corps G.I. Joe characters. A majority of the G.I. Joe team is Army. No ifs, ands, or buts. It's Army. However, Sailors is, I think, about 13. Air Force is 15. But Marine Corps, there are only 9 Marines. Of all the 200 plus members of the G.I. Joe team, only 9 are Marines. But blacks are the minority. There have been 13 black characters. One of the main reasons why there were so few black characters is due to the fact that every time they came out with a new wave, every time they came out with a new line of GI Joes, they were constantly revamping and remodeling. They've done this more than once. There were 5 versions of Snake Eyes in the vintage line. There was 3 versions of Storm Shadow in the vintage line. So there have been more than one. There's been several versions of Heavy Duty, Roadblock, and Stalker. They constantly reuse those characters over and over again. So because of that, not too many new black characters were introduced. Doc was killed in the comic books, so they wound up with a new black army medic known as Stretcher. Bulletproof, part of drug elimination force. Colonel Courage. They even gave them a black commissioned officer, a colonel. And like I said, all throughout the line, because they kept reusing those three, and I think they also reused Alpine a couple times as well. That's why there haven't been as many black characters. But mind you, all those guys were Army. They were not even part of they weren't even any other branches. They didn't even come from any other branch of service. They were all Army. And and like I said, 15 Air Force, 13 sailors. You had just as many sailors as you had as many black characters, but only nine Marines in all of G.I. Joe. And who were those 9 Marines? Leatherneck, Gung Ho, Sergeant Slaughter, Mainframe, Bullhorn, Mace, Mirage, Blastoff, Hollow Point. So 9 Marines. Gung Ho, Leatherneck, Sergeant Slaughter, Mainframe, Bullhorn, Mace, Blastoff, Mirage, Hollow Point. There's a serious discrepancy there. 9 Marines, double digits, at least double digits on black G.I. Joe team members, on Sailor G.I. Joe team members, on Air Force G.I. Joe team members. Only 9 Marines. Am I complaining? No, this is a fictitious world. Marine Corps, like prime example of this. Like every time like the military holds like the sniper competitions or their shooting competitions, whenever the branches of service are holding their shooting competitions, Marine Corps 9 times out of 10 scores the lowest. Of the 4 branches of service, you got, that have, these guys who are, their specialty is being, the eagle eye of whatever, to being the sharpshooter. What happens? Marine Corps, 9 times out of 10, doesn't do too well. Despite the fact that every Marine is a rifleman, that we pride ourselves on being, one shot, one kill. Why is it that we score the lowest? Because our best shooters are not given the time to compete. We're given the opportunity, the guys who they're good enough to shoot for this competition, but they're not the best the Marine Corps has to offer, because the best that the Marine Corps has to offer are out in the field. As far as Marine Corps, we do things we do things differently than the other branches of service. Air Force, it's like to call it night and day is an understatement, because Marine Corps, we have to use whatever money we have, buy weapons, and if there's no money for shelter, then we grab some canvases and build a tent. Air Force spends all their money on building a grand hotel, and then complains that they don't have money for weapons. And then they're given a lot more money. So they get the best housing situation, and they get the best weapon situation. That's how those two particular branches of service work. And in the fictional world of G.I. Joe, apparently, it looks like it's more or less the same. As fun as it was talking about this, just understand a couple of the disparities that you can't necessarily complain too much about. I'm done talking. You guys have a good night.